deal. Just to let you know, MEPRA is the worst law the Pension Rights Center has seen in our 41 years of existence. It torpedoed the most fundamental provisions of the private pension law called ERISA by allowing trustees of multi-employer plans to cut back the already earned pensions of workers and retirees by more than 50 to 70%. MEPRA was a breach of promise. COPPA restores those promises. The Pension Rights Center is working with tens of thousands of retired truck drivers, warehouse workers, iron workers, and others across the country, and many of you are here, the hundreds of you here today, to find solutions to the multi-employer pension crisis and protect retirees and workers. COPPA is a strong solution which provides financial support to the most severely troubled plans to ensure that all benefits are paid and the multi-employer system stays strong. The bill has a lot of support from the Machinists unions, from the Teamsters union, from AARP, the Boilermakers, and others are coming on board. So I want to thank our distinguished senators. Thank you, Senator Sanders and Senator Baldwin, and Senator Franken and Brown and Peters and Klobuchar for introducing COPPA today. Senator Sanders, I would love to just have you come up now, and I just want to say one last thing that I know you'll agree with, which is this should not be a partisan fight. Protecting pensions is not a Democratic or Republican issue. It's a fundamental issue, and it's about American values. And there's nothing more fundamental than protecting pensions. Thank you, Senator Sanders, for introducing the bill.
Thank you. Well, let me begin by thanking all of you who are here today. We can win this fight, but we're not going to win it unless millions of people who have been royally screwed by what happened a couple of years ago, that's a technical legislative term, stand up and fight back. You got people right now who are prepared to provide many hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks for the top 0.2%. If they can support crap like that, surely we can support justice for millions of American workers. So let me begin by thanking Senator Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin, Al Franken from Minnesota, Bob Martinez, Jr., the president of the Machinists Union, Mike Walden, brought your fan club, all right. Karen Friedman, the executive vice president of the Pension Rights Center, for all of the great work that they have been doing. I would also like to thank Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur of Ohio for introducing this very same bill in the House. And I'm proud, as Karen just mentioned to you, that this bill has the strong support of the Machinists, the Pension Rights Center, the AARP, the Teamsters, the Boilermakers, and many, many other groups. Let me just make a few points, and we'll introduce those who are here with me today. Bottom line is that when the federal government makes a promise to millions of workers, that promise must be kept. Now, the good news is that just last week, Congress voted to restore the retiree health benefits that were promised to about 90,000 coal miners. It took an enormous amount of work to accomplish that. It is a good start, but obviously we're here today to say that much, much more must be done. We are here today to say as loudly and clearly as we can that we will not allow the earned pension benefits of up to 10 million workers to be cut by as much as 60%. Ain't gonna happen. As you all know, over 40 years ago, the federal government made a solemn commitment to the workers of this country. If a retiree is promised a certain pension benefit after a lifetime of hard work, a company could not renege on that promise. That commitment made 40 years ago was exactly the right thing to do. When someone works for their entire life, when they give up pay raises, when they work overtime, when they work weekends, in order to make sure that they're going to have a secure retirement, it is not acceptable to pull the rug out from underneath that worker. But as you all know, sadly, more than 2 years ago, behind closed doors, a provision was slipped into a must-pass spending bill that now makes it legal to cut the pension benefits of millions of workers and retirees in multi-employer pension plans. As a result, retirees all over this country are waking up to the reality that the pension benefits that they are receiving today may soon be cut by 20, 30, 40, or even 65%. Imagine that. Imagine working your whole life and sacrificing in order to make sure your family has a secure retirement, and one day you wake up and find that there are plans to cut your retirement benefits by 50%. Today, we will hear from a retired iron worker from Cleveland, Dan Wargo, who has already seen his pension slashed from $2,500 a month down to just a little over $1,000 a month. And of course, he is not alone. We are talking about retirees who will no longer be able to pay their mortgages, who won't be able to pay their air conditioning bills this summer or their heating bills next winter. Not acceptable. Today, we are sending a message to the Republican leadership in Congress and to the President of the United States. When a promise is made to the working people of this country, that promise will be kept. Today, as you know, about 150 multi-employer pension plans are in trouble financially. But let us be clear. The retirees, you, are not the reason that these pension plans are struggling financially. The reason that many of these pension plans are in trouble today is because of the Wall Street crash of 2008, which was caused by the greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior of some of the largest financial institutions in this country. Now, oddly enough, after those guys on Wall Street caused the crisis, the Congress of the United States bailed them out. Well, if we could bail out the people who caused the crisis, we damn well can protect the workers who were impacted by that. The legislation that Senator Baldwin and I are introducing in the Senate and Congresswoman Capter is introducing in the House would prevent the retirement benefits of about 10 million workers and retirees from being cut by repealing the anti-pension rider that was included in an appropriations bill 2 years ago. It establishes an emergency fund within the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation to make sure that the multi-employer pension plans can continue to provide every pension benefit owed to every eligible American for decades to come. And at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, this program, this legislation is fully paid for by closing two tax loopholes that allow the wealthiest Americans in this country to avoid paying their fair share of taxes. Closing these tax loopholes will allow us to protect the earned pension benefits of every worker and retiree in a multi-employer pension plan in this country. Brothers and sisters, this is a fight we can win. Our job is to rally the American people around an issue of enormous consequence all over this country. Older people are worried about what is going to happen to them when they retire. We have the people on our side. Let's bring them together. Let's win this. Now let me introduce Senator Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin.
Wow. So thank you, Bernie, for your leadership on this. Thank you, Al, all of our partners in the Senate and in the House. But most of all, thank you to those of you who are here today. We are here because we believe that hardworking people who build their future should never, never have to doubt the security of their retirement. And we choose to gather today because it was 1 year ago that Wisconsin workers and retirees finally got to hear some good news. Last May, the Treasury Department rejected cuts to earned pensions proposed by the Central States Pension Fund. Now, when retirees began receiving letters from Central States describing what the proposed cuts would mean for themselves and their families, I heard from Wisconsinites who worked hard, who played by the rules every day, and would have faced financial ruin if cuts to their pension had have gone through. But Wisconsinites know how to fight. Across the state and across this country, workers and retirees made sure that their voices were heard loudly and clearly. Thanks to the hard work of many of you who are here today, our message was delivered and the Treasury made the right move. The decision to reject these devastating cuts was a great relief to me, but certainly ever more to the hardworking families across my state and across the country. However, as everyone here knows, we still have work to do. We still have to make sure that Washington starts respecting work, not just wealth. And respecting work means keeping promises made to our workers. We have to fight to strengthen the multi-employer pension plans throughout the country to ensure that millions of Americans who rely on a full pension after a lifetime of hard work can count on a secure retirement. The Keep Our Pension Promises Act will protect the pensions of up to 10 million Americans. A secure retirement is a central pillar of economic security for the middle class. By eliminating a loophole and tax breaks for the very wealthiest of Americans, the Keep Our Pension Promises Act will strengthen that pillar. I've listened to Wisconsin workers and retirees. I've heard from your family members, and I know what a secure retirement means to you and all of your loved ones. We need to keep the momentum going. Washington needs to listen to Wisconsin workers and all of you from all over the country who are here today. And that's why I've also called on the chair of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee to hold a hearing on Central States Pension Fund and the multi-employer pension fund crisis. We've seen that we can win this fight by working together and never, never giving up. And I'm proud to stand with you and working families across this country to continue to do just that. We must protect the retirement security that you've worked a lifetime to achieve that you've planned for and that you depend on. So let's win this fight.
Al Franken, Senator Al Franken of Minnesota, has been very involved in this issue. Al?
Thanks, Bernie. And thank you, Tammy, too, for leading this charge. Tammy's right. It is the HELP Committee, Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. And without the P, it's just hell. So when I was first running for the Senate, the first I got endorsed by the local at one of our mines up in iron ore mines, taconite plant in Hibbing, Minnesota, and I went down with the in the factory, and I went down to the break room, and I was opening it up to questions, and the first one I was asked is, "What are you going to do to protect my pensions?" And I didn't know what to say. I just had started, really. But I said I would like to protect pensions by putting them first in line when a company goes bankrupt. And that's what he was talking about, because that's what had happened on the Iron Range. A company would go bankrupt, and then the mine would stay open. They'd sell it to some other entity, and it'd stay open the next day, run the same way, but you lost your pension. And I said, well, no, the pension has to be the first thing taken care of, not the investors. I have a multi-employer pension program that I was in the Writers Guild of America, and I was in AFTRA and SAG. And I know what it means to be in a multi-employer business. I've been on strike. I've walked the picket line, and I've paid my dues. And these agreements should mean something. And that's all we're talking about here, is live up to your agreement. And what are our priorities? The tax loopholes that we cut are, one of them is you can have an IRA in which you shield your income pretty much up to infinity. So you can have an IRA to make sure you have a secure retirement of, like Governor Romney had, of like $100 million. And then you're pretty secure. We're capping it at what, 4 million? Is that it? We're saying that you can't protect your income after that. You can't use this to shield your income from taxes after, you have just a few million. This is about the middle class. I know the president will be for this because he talked about workers, and so this is right down his alley. So I look forward to him fighting for this as well. And Tammy and I did ask Lamar Alexander that we have a hearing on this. This is so important. If you care about the working men and women of this country, then you will want them to have secure retirements, and that means honoring their pensions. And this means making yourselves heard. This means making people in your communities heard. This means fighting for simple justice. If you worked, if you had a signed contract that you were working under, then you're entitled to what was on that contract. So we're going to win this because we're right, and we're on the side of the hard-working people of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Franken. Let's welcome Bob Martinez, Jr., President of the Machinists Union.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, good afternoon. Our union travels well, Senators. As the Senator said, my name is Bob Martinez. I'm an aircraft assembler by trade. I'm also the proud international president of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers. The Machinists Union represents over 600,000 working men and women in industries that move North America. We're the largest airline and aerospace union in the world. Our members also work in transportation, manufacturing, defense, shipbuilding, woodworking, and many other industries. Many of our members set aside their money in multi-employer pensions today so that they can retire comfortably tomorrow. The money isn't a gift from the government, and it isn't because of the company's goodwill as well. That's money that we've earned, our members, working men and women have earned. That's why they call it an earned benefit. That's why they call it a defined benefit. A defined benefit is something that is defined that you will retire with at the end of your working career. What this anti-cutback law has done is rob working men and women of their defined benefit pension plan, and the Fighting Machinists will stand with you, Senators, every step of the way to ensure that we beat this thing back. So, but a bunch of extremists in Congress and their buddies on Wall Street don't see it that way. They see their greed as more important than all of our retirements. As one of the last acts of the 113th Congress, those radicals passed a law making it A-OK to cut benefits for current retirees in so-called troubled multi-employer pension plans. That used to be against the law under ERISA. The Machinists Union and the allies we're here with today did everything that we could to stop it in the 113th. Those congressmen should be ashamed of themselves for what they did to our retirees and those that are going to retire. They voted to give themselves the right to use our retirement as their own personal slush fund. Too many Americans have already had their earned retirements ripped away from their homes, away from them through no fault of their own. Now those retirees face many hardships, including the loss of their homes, forced out on the street, again, at no fault of their own. Where I'm from, in Texas, they call that highway robbery. But Senators Sanders, Baldwin, Franken, and Congresswoman Capter, and the co-sponsors of the Keep Our Pension Promises Act have a solution. And it's pretty simple. Number one, to restore retirement security for millions of Americans by, again, making it illegal to still earn retirement benefits for our current retirees. Two, to adequately fund the PBGC so that when pension funds do become insolvent through no fault of their beneficiaries, the government doesn't shake down retirees to bail them out. And three, to protect employers participating in multi-employer plans by prioritizing pension obligations during bankruptcies. That helps the remaining employers make it less likely they become responsible for underfunded plans. Machinist union members know the benefits of a well-run multi-employer pension plan. The IAM National Pension Plan provides retirement security to over 90,000 retirees and beneficiaries across North America. All working families deserve this kind of security, and they certainly don't deserve to have their retirements ripped out from under them during their golden years. Every member of Congress who says they represent the middle class should join these senators to co-sponsor the Keep Our Pension Promises Act. They should step forward because if they believe in working men and women, it is their obligation to step forward with these senators and co-sponsor this bill. And if the President of the United States really supports working men and women like he says he does, he should put COPA on the fast track to his desk and sign it into law as soon as it gets there. I want to personally thank the senators that are here today, especially Senators Sanders, Baldwin, Franken, and Congresswoman Capter, who is not here, for continuing to fight for my members and all working men and women across this country. Let's tell the rest of this town to get on board. Let's save the retirement for retirees in the United States of America. And brothers and sisters, let's pass the Keep Our Pension Promises Act. God bless you all. Thank you.
Bob, thank you very much. This is a life and death issue for millions of people, and I want to bring up a gentleman who is already experiencing the pain of what is going on. Please welcome Dan Wargo, who is a retiree with the Iron Workers from Cleveland. Dan? Dan, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever thought that I thought I would be here, I can't believe this has happened. I'd like to first thank Senator Sanders and all the people involved, all the Congress people that will be involved, I hope, down the road. And I'd like to thank them in behalf of asking me, a retiree of Local 17, Iron Workers, Cleveland. I am a retired Local 17 iron worker and worked 44 years in hard service in an occupation that built the skyline of Cleveland, which includes the bridges that connect communities so they could flourish with their businesses, and along with many other reasons. It was hard work, which I elected to do. It was outside in the cold, the heat, the rain, and the snow. The risks were great because of the heights that we worked in the handling of heavy iron. Many of us have health and physical problems related to this work, but once again, that was our choice. We believe and promised well-deserved pensions, which would, when retired, we could live the last years of our lives in dignity. We gave up wages, I'm talking about our money, of up to $16 an hour that were put into our pension funds. Now, because of a law commonly known as the MPRA Act of 2014, which everyone up here has spoke about, which was enacted with no hearings, no input from those that were impacted the most, and no advance notice. And it was attached to bills in the middle of the dark of the night, behind closed doors. And my pension and many others have been reduced up to 60%. Personally, that was 58% for me. In other words, I went from $2,600 a month to $1,100. It happened this last year, 2016, on December 20th. It was voted on. We were told we were to vote on it, which we did. And may I include that a non-vote, those other ironworker brothers who knew nothing of it, maybe on visiting family members around the Christmas time in other states, it went in effect in February. So a brother ironworker who didn't know anything about it, who had been maybe retired like myself, 8, 9 years, got a pension check, automatic deposit in his account that was, I'm sure he didn't think this was he had to think it was a mistake. I mean, I don't mean to ask anybody in here, but if you think of losing 60% of your monthly income, well, it's startling. It really is, and it does happen. So our lives, our health, our homes, somewhat you could say flushed away. I mean, not all of us are going to lose our homes. Not all of us are it's not, I'm not up here to plea with a cry. I'm just saying, believe me, it can happen, and it has happened. And hopefully with the help of these people, you know, it won't happen again. So we definitely support Senator Sanders and the other people, and I hope we can arouse other Americans to keep our Pension Promises Act. And it will save lives and the dignity of those who earn pensions and hopefully restore ours. We need a solution. Here it is. And please, may we get on the streets and have fellow Americans support us. It's kind of hard in a sense because some people think that we were overpaid and shouldn't receive a pension of such sum. But like again, I said, that wasn't money that was given to us. That was our money that we put in an account. I don't think there's any more I can say other than thank you to all these people and thank you to us who have a movement that can work. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and hopefully it doesn't happen to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Now let me introduce Mike Walden, who is the president of the National United Committee to Protect Pensions from Ohio. Mike.
Thank you, Senator Sanders, and thank you, Senator Tammy Baldwin and Al Franken and Machinists Union for everybody participating in this. And it gets pretty emotional at times, especially see what you've seen or what has happened to the only application so far it's been approved and to a person that it affects. I can't follow the Machinists Union because I only brought 2 people. And But anyway, my name is Mike Walden. I was a 31-year employee of Roadway Express. Most recently, and I'm a United States Marine Vietnam veteran, having fought in the height of the war. And during the most critical times over there, 67 to 69. I've most recently been diagnosed with cancer related to Agent Orange, and it's, I'll be there in a minute. I'm not telling you that to gain sympathy by any means. I'm telling you that to show you that once you retire, things come up. We have people that's lost their eyesight, their limbs, their diabetes problems, things of that nature. If you look at Mr. Wargo, how could that man possibly go back to work to supplement the income that he is going to lose? It's impossible. You can't do that. First of all, I want to, good afternoon, and thank you, Senator Sanders, for inviting me. And being Mike Walden, to speak as the president of and on behalf of the National United Committee to Protect Pensions, which represents committees and participants across the country that have lost and have the potential to lose their earned and promised pensions through no fault of their own. We want you to know, Senator Sanders and Senator Baldwin and Senator Franken and everybody here, that we support the Keep Our Pension Promises Act. It is the only solution that has been put into legislation to create a viable solution, not a crutch, to bring our funds to solvency and bring the PBGC to solvency. We will support any legislation that creates solvency and saves our pensions, especially with no reductions to pensions as COPPA does. I want Senator Sanders and the senators to know that across the country today, this afternoon, tonight, that our area committees, which we have 65 to 70 area committees that have been working hard, are having meetings with their House representatives, media, throughout the country to address and introduce COPPA, the reintroduction of COPPA. Marcy Captor, who is the supporter, is having a meeting in Toledo, Ohio today with about 20 of our retirees. There in Minnesota, Congressman Nolan is meeting with others with the Minnesota group. And you have all of our support across the country. We know from our work across the country, with our committees, our work with our House and Senate members, our work with the key stakeholders, which we just had assembled together about 3 weeks ago with all the Central States Pension Fund, IBT, United Mine Workers of America, PBGC, AARP, many of those, we finally brought them together to sit down to let's talk about, discuss solutions, ideas, and thoughts. It's been 4 years that I've been working on this, and that's the first time it's been done. The main people, the Machinists Union is invited. They will be there at the next meeting that we're having, which will be coming up soon. We work with our work with our key stakeholders, our work with our allies and our bureaucrats. There are many different solutions on the horizon, but none has been enacted as time and money is getting short to many funds and participants. As proposed solutions to solvency are discussed, they seem to be cast aside because many in Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike, are more concerned about their party lines than the lives of the elderly that fought for and built this country, including the active participants who still fight for and build this country. We are neutral in this crisis. All should be neutral in this crisis. This has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with humanity. Many in Congress are more concerned about and negative towards unions that provided excellent health and welfare, pensions, gender gap wages, and minimum wage problems we have today. That is the reason some are not supporting any help to the pension crisis, saying the taxpayers should not be a party to solving the pension crisis, though we were the best taxpayers and still pay our taxes. They have lost. They have lost sight of us being taxpayers. As our pension system fails, so does the economy of the United States of America, who myself and many other retirees fought for, worked hard for, earning every penny we made, giving up wage increases to have a solvent pension fund and a promised pension so that we could live our last years supporting ourselves, not the government supporting us. This is a pay us now or pay us later concern. We lose our pensions, we go into poverty. We will not be able to afford our medication. We will not be able to afford our housing, our utilities, and most of all, our families. But guess what? The government has a program for all the problems I mentioned that we will be able to draw from. So what is cheaper to the taxpayer, to the so-called taxpayers? Which is always remember we are taxpayers too. What is cheaper to our communities we live in, our states? Our pension system is failing for many reasons, none of which are the participants at fault. Look at your legislation, the Wall Street monsters, education of administrators, and of course the greedy. It is time for all to step up across the aisle, to come together to save lives and dignity, to save the American economy, support COPPA. If you can't see your way to support COPPA, then stop talking and start producing a solution that is better, fair and equitable to all. This should not be a political issue. This should be a humane issue. And I want to thank Dan for coming down from Ohio. There are many of us, trust me. I know of congressmen and senators that have, their staff members have fathers and grandfathers that have lost their legs. They cannot go back to work. When you get a thing in the mail that says, oh, here, we're cutting your application, but you can go back to work, it doesn't happen. And being in Central States Pension Fund, 400,000 members in that fund. It is, there's 202,000 retirees in that fund. How are all those people, where are you going to find jobs? There's no jobs now. If you could go back to work, but you cannot go back to work in the occupations that you did, whether it's truck driving, warehousing. I would never hope to see Dan back up on a skyscraper or on a bridge building things. It's just not going to happen. But once again, I want to thank you. I want you to know we support everything you do. And I appreciate everything you've done. Thank you much.
Mike, thank you very much. Look, here is the bottom line. We can win this fight. We can win this fight because 10 million American workers or retirees have been impacted, and they have husbands and wives. They have a lot of power. We will not win this fight unless we mobilize, unless we educate, unless we organize. But very few members of the Congress will have the guts, after hearing what we heard today, to look you in the face and say, no, we're not going to support this legislation. And your job is to get in their faces. So thank you all very, very much for being here. Let's go forward together. Thank you.